Hey guys, so I'm trying to make a more regular upload schedule. I'll try to do that, but I probably won't because I'm not a very organized person, as you can tell. So I'm gonna probably have a more regular upload schedule. I'll aim to upload at least once a week. If I don't be so surprised there's no new video or anything. So I thought that in light of my recent trip to the UK to visit the universities I applied to, that I give you my reasons for applying to the UK. So this video is going to be mainly about why I chose to study in the UK and not in Australia, where I did the IB at, where I went to school. Or why I didn't choose to go to the US, for example, which is a country that I considered going to further my education. I did consider Canada, but I'm probably not going to talk about Canada in this video because I ultimately just decided not to go there because it's just too far away. I've got my notes so that I won't be talking off the cuff and going off a tangent like I usually tend to do. I did apply to a few Australian universities. Actually, I applied to 2 Australian universities. I applied to Australian National and I applied to Melbourne University. And in America, I considered applying to UC Berkeley. If you follow me on any social media, I cannot talk. If you follow me on any of my social media, especially if you follow me on Twitter, me wanting to go to UC Berkeley shouldn't come as such a surprise. I consider UC Berkeley because it's ranked number 2 in the world for sociology, and it has an amazing sociology program, which is why I considered it. Personally, I think we tend to over-sensationalize a lot of American colleges. Like, unis in Australia and in the UK are just as good, in my opinion. So, then again, from my perspective on the US and the US college system, take it with a grain of salt because it's only based on what I've heard and what I've seen and what I've read. So the video is gonna mainly focus on sociology and studying sociology in the UK compared to studying sociology in the US and in Australia. So let's get into it. What I liked about studying the UK is that there is no major minor system. You apply directly to the subject, and I can focus on intense sociological training starting at year 1. So starting from year 1, I can focus on just training to become a sociologist rather than having to study a bunch of different subjects from a bunch of different fields in my first year and my first 2 years that I feel can sort of drown out the experience of, which I think sort of drowns out the whole sociology program, I think. I mean, that's just me. If you want to study a breadth of different subjects in your first year, go ahead. But I personally wanted to get in and just focus. Although this only applies to England, in Scotland they have something similar to a major minor system, so keep that in mind. Studying at an English university, you tend to just focus on one subject from year 1 all the way to year 3, which is good if you know what you want to do. Like, I knew I wanted to study sociology, so that didn't really bother me. I still have the option to borrow papers from other departments, to do optional papers from outside my degree if I wanted to, so I always have that at the back of my head just in case. Yeah, so no major minor system, and I can focus on just intense training on becoming a sociologist starting from year 1, and I won't have to worry about having my knowledge sort of be drowned in a sea of knowledge from other sort of disciplines. What I liked about UK universities, Scotland included, is that there's a dissertation component for sociology, which is only available at postgrad level in Australia and the US. I think a dissertation is really good for an academic subject because it really trains you to think like a researcher. It really trains you for postgraduate study, and I just like doing my own research. I love doing research and I love writing about it. I love talking about it. I love being independent about my research and the things I want to study. I sort of got to do that in the IB through the extended essay program, the extended essay component, and I loved writing my EE, even though I sort of rushed it near the end. But yeah, I like the idea of becoming an independent researcher. I didn't want to have to wait until post-grad to do that. So that's what I really liked about universities in the UK. It's the dissertation component at the end of the 3-year course. Another reason why I ultimately chose to study in the UK is that there's no GPA system. If you guys aren't familiar with what the GPA actually is and what it actually does, is that basically every single piece of assessment you do, starting from your first year to your final year, gets counted towards your GPA. Oh man, I'm so gassy, I'm so sorry. So every single piece of assessment you do counts towards your grade, counts towards your degree. It can, depending on how well you do on that piece of assessment, it can either pull your GPA up, or if you do it really badly, it'll pull your GPA down, which is kind of stressful, the idea of having every single piece of assessment you do count towards your grade starting from year 1. What I liked about the UK is that they don't have a GPA system. They have a lot of formative assessment, which you do at the start of year 1 and year 2, so that in year 3, when you do your final pieces of assessment, you're prepared for it. So formative assessment, what's good about formative assessment is that the assessment you do in, say for example, your first year, either won't count to your degree or it will count to your degree, but it's weighted less. So the whole point of the assessment you do in your first year is just to help build your skills, and then in second and third year, all the assessment you do eventually will count your degree, but at that point you have enough skills to make sure that you can do the best you can achieve in each piece of assessment. And so what's really good about the whole formative assessment kind of thing is that in each module you have formative assessment and then you have summative assessment. So basically you do an essay or an exam in, say for example, at the end of your first term or the beginning of your second term, that sort of tells you where you're at that current point in time, and then it either won't count to your final grade in the module, or it would count to your final grade, but it's weighted at a really low percentage. And the whole point of that is just, again, like what I said before, just to help you practice your skill, practice the knowledge, so that you're ready for your final piece of assessment. What I like about that is that you get to revisit the knowledge and revisit the content, so you really get to build your skill and build your knowledge as the year goes by, during the course or during the module. Unlike in Australia or in the US, where you study content, take an assessment, and then you don't revisit the content again, so it doesn't stay in your head and you don't get to consolidate that information. What I liked about in the UK is that you either study something for an entire year or semester, depending on what university you go to, and then because of the formative assessment that you do, you get to practice that knowledge and you get to practice that skill over and over and over again. That will really stick in your head, and that's sort of the system I'm used to because I did IB and I did IGCSE. Because in IGCSE and IB you have formative assessment and practice assessment in school, and then you have your final exam. So since I'm so used to that sort of system, I might as well go to a place that uses that system rather than studying content and never revisiting it again. That's kind of, I think that can get a little bit stressful, because it means you have to master that skill, or you have to master that knowledge in such a short period of time. Also, it's not as complicated to apply to the UK as it is to the US, although it's easier to apply to Australia, though I'm not gonna get into it right now. So in the UK, I only need to write a personal statement that is applicable to all the universities I'm applying to, because that personal statement is just detailing why I'm interested in the subject I want to study and what I've done to sort of facilitate my interest in that subject. Whereas in the US, you have to write like a bunch of admissions essays for each college you're applying to. At least that's what I think. That's from what I've seen. The admissions essays you write are completely unrelated to your course. It's just you're just trying to sell yourself, it tends not to be very academic. The application process, it's not as academic as the UK's application process, which I think sort of defeats the purpose of going to university. Plus, it's easier to apply to the UK with IB than it is to America, because in America they want to see how well you do throughout all 4 years of high school and how much you've improved. They want to see all your transcripts, they want to see your GPA, stuff like that. Whereas in the UK, they just want to see what qualifications you have. So they want to see your results at the end of the course rather than your results throughout the course, which I think has its pros and cons, but that system was in my favor anyway. So also, it's so much more affordable studying in the UK compared to the US. I know in the US it's like it costs over 50 grand a year for an international student, whereas in the UK it's only 15,000 quid a year for an international student. So it's so much more affordable, and because of the whole Brexit thing, the pound dropped in its worth, so the conversion rate dropped, and it's so much more affordable to buy pounds now compared to in the past. So it was just in my favor. Also, on a side note, there are a few things I forgot to mention earlier. I do have a text post from the original admin. Was she the original admin or like the previous admin of the Ask a Cambridge Student Tumblr blog that detailed the reasons as to why she ultimately chose to study in the UK instead of the US. I'll put a link in the description, or if not, because it takes a while to try and find these posts, I'll probably copy paste the whole thing, because I copy pasted it and it's somewhere in my notes, and I'll probably copy paste it into the description for you guys to read. And another thing I forgot to mention is that in Australia, oh, I'm so gassy. In Australia, the major and minor system is only applicable to the Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science degrees, or any bachelor degree that's not professional, not like a Bachelor of Medicine or a Bachelor of Engineering and stuff like that. It's not, the major minor system doesn't apply to those. So yeah, you'll be studying a breadth of different subjects in your first year, but that's only subjects that's sort of in the arts area if you're doing a Bachelor of Arts, or the sciences area if you're doing a Bachelor of Science. Some universities like the University of Melbourne allows you to borrow units from outside the arts or outside the sciences, but that again depends on the university. So yeah, just wanted to make that clear. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much why I decided to apply to the UK and not to Australia or to the US. I think in the future I'm probably gonna make a video about applying internationally, and you know how I applied, what it takes to apply internationally, and what to do, what steps to take and stuff like that, but that's for the future. So hopefully you guys like this video and subscribe, and I hope you still continue to watch my content, because I'm a very lonely person. Okay, bye!